This is Lost Media found in 2022. How the Hamsters Saved Winter. That's right, the first find of 2022 is How the Hamsters Saved Winter, an odd piece of media you'll now remember because of this list. The hamster dance is one of the earliest internet memes, created in 1998 by Deidre Lecarte. It featured Hampton the hamster and other rodents dancing to a sped up version of the song Whistle Stop. Due to its popularity, some madman decided to make a whole animated film based on this GIF, and thus, How the Hamsters Saved Winter was born. The plot follows Hampton and his bandmates, Dixie, Fuzzy, Hato, and Frank, heading to Montreal for a concert. During a fierce snowstorm, their vehicle nearly crashes, and the group becomes stranded. They find refuge in a ski lodge belonging to a struggling family. So it's up to the hamsters to make the concert in time and help the family, which somehow saves Winter. It's just as bad as it looks, but it's only mercifully 25 minutes long. The animation is serviceable for a simple story about rodents in the winter, but dear God, the humans look like the stuff of nightmares. The film's DVD was available for sale until 2012, far past Hampton's prime, and seemingly became lost for the next 10 years. According to the franchise owner, Bill Porfido, around 2,000 copies were sold. However, only the cover, price, and 4 screenshots were online. That is until 2022, when it suddenly resurfaced online by a member of the Lost Media Wiki Discord. This user, named Jen She/Her, revealed that she had a signed copy of the film, thanks to her dad, who was friends with the director.
Don't worry, Mandy. We'll be back again next year to kick off ski season with another hamster concert.
Oh, goody! I love you guys.
Load 'em up, hamsters.
All lights fucked on the Harry Amp drooling. Personally, I consider this to be the first big find of 2022. The story of All Lights Fucked on the Harry Amp drooling by Godspeed You Black Emperor has all the makings of an excellent lost media mystery. I will summarize it the best I can, so let's dive in. Godspeed You Black Emperor is an experimental post-rock band, mainly consisting of instrumentals and avant-garde soundscapes. As the band grew in popularity, murmurs of an earlier album swept through the internet, called All Lights Fucked on the Harry Amp drooling, released in 1994. Only 33 copies of this album were sold, making it one of the rarest pieces of lost music. Many even consider it a holy grail of post-rock. In 2013, a Reddit user named Casca Jack claimed to have owned a copy of the album. OP stated that he, quote, used to collect demo tapes from the local bands of every city he went to. One day, while cleaning out his closet, he stumbled upon a cassette for All Lights Fucked on the Harry Amp drooling. Quote, according to Wikipedia, it was limited to 33 copies, and no copies are known to exist. This is kind of cool. Anyway, I guess I'm just looking for some advice. What would you guys do with it? His post was met with immediate skepticism from commenters, forcing Casca Jack to upload these images. It shows the album's cassette tape and proof of his identity. Furthermore, Casca Jack uploaded the last 2 tracks of Side A. Casca Jack's Reddit account was later deleted, and he was never heard from again. He had plans to dump the entire album online, or even sell the tape through eBay, but this never happened, leading some to discount the whole ordeal as an elaborate hoax. 9 years later, on February 4th, 2022, on the music board of 4chan, an anon made this post. Quote, I have something you've all wanted for a long, long time. This is it. The first Godspeed You Black Emperor album. I hope you enjoy. Included was a mega folder containing what was supposedly the entire album. Like the Reddit post, the 4chan thread was met with skepticism and excitement. Some were thrilled by the discovery, while others were doubtful of its legitimacy and legality. Any doubts about the leak's authenticity vanished when the band themselves officially released the album to their Bandcamp page on February 14th, 2022. And as a final note, This also proved that the 2013 leak from Reddit was, in fact, legitimate. Twinkle the Dream Being. One of the reasons I like Lost Media is discovering bizarre shows and films I never knew existed. Twinkle the Dream Being is one of those shows. It was a strange syndicated television series between the United States and South Korea that vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. Twinkle the Dream Being takes place on a planet called the Land of Possibility, inhabited by an alien race. But an evil witch named Diva Weed likes to cause trouble for the land. So when things go awry, the citizens call upon Twinkle, a yellow alien with the power to grant wishes to thwart Diva Weed's plans. Curiously, it features the vocal talents of Tress MacNeille as both Twinkle and Diva Weed, and Patrick Fraley as not one, not two, but 3 different characters for some reason. The series ran for 26 episodes and only aired from 1992 to 1993, making it incredibly rare. More so, it was never released to home video, and its production company, Zodiac Entertainment, went defunct the following year in 1994. Twinkle was the last show they ever produced. Suddenly, on February 12, 2022, the entire series was uploaded to YouTube by a user named ZPC7, with credit attributed to a different user named Catbooks. Doraemon 79 MTV UK dub. Doraemon is an incredibly popular manga, first serialized in late 1969. It was then adapted into multiple animes in Japan, first in 1973, then a reboot in 1979, and its current series from 2005. The story details the adventures of Doraemon, a blue robot cat from the 22nd century who's sent back in time to take care of Nobita, a 10-year-old student, and his friends. For a long while, rumors of a UK dub of the 1979 Doraemon anime existed online. It wasn't until 2017 when a Reddit user named Carpe Diem's Nuts posted a photo of a peculiarly labeled VHS tape. According to him, his dad, quote, did some work for MTV who commissioned the dub. I distinctly remember watching a clip. He definitely voices Doraemon and told me it was commissioned by MTV UK. He then posted a tweet containing a brief snippet of the lost dub.
And anyway, it's liquid ammonia on Venus, so please tell Serena how thick she is, okay?
Just because I know the difference between male and female.
I know this gender-fit jumper cable should sort this out. How can a life form with only 2 sexes to worry about be so completely clueless?
4 years later, on February 12th, 2022, Carpe Diem's Nuts was finally able to rip the VHS tape and upload the whole episode online. Oddly enough, the dubbed episode is from Doraemon 79's 8th season. It is not the pilot episode. Also, Shizuka's name is localized to Serena, and the setting is changed to Britain instead of Japan. Nevertheless, it's an odd piece of Doraemon history that is now available for fans to see. Cimarron Original Mix. There really are no limits to what falls under the Lost Media umbrella. If it's media, such as any form of video, image, or audio, and inaccessible through normal means, then it fits. Such is the case, surprisingly, with our next entry. If you grew up in the 90s or 2000s, then you'll definitely recognize this sound. For many kids from that era, THX's iconic intro terrified them. And who could blame them? The sound is loud, unexpected, and played before many classic films. But surprisingly, as the logo evolved, one of its versions slipped through the cracks, becoming lost. Seriously. Dubbed Cimarron, this version of the THX logo premiered in select theaters in 1988, and was the first to utilize CGI, or computer-generated imagery. Like most THX logos, it was expected to appear on DVD before the film played. Instead, we got a different version that sported a new audio mix. thereby rendering the original theater-exclusive version lost. On the film tech forums, efforts to recreate Cimarron were held. Eventually, a forum member found a YouTube upload of the TV documentary Star Wars: The Magic and the Mystery. It was uploaded in 2013, and about 40 minutes in, the lost original logo appears, although it is abruptly cut by an interview with Gary Summers. This was the closest people got to the logo until a few years later, when a video titled Film 90 Report on Sound in Cinemas was uncovered, showing fans more of the trailer. Fast forward to 2022, when a user named MagicFly2001 uploaded the original Cimarron trailer. Despite its poor quality, this video contained the entire uninterrupted trailer, concluding its 10-year-long search. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? 10th Anniversary Primetime Celebration. Game shows are ripe for becoming lost media. They're rarely released on the streaming services or home media, and are mostly seen as quick but forgettable entertainment by the networks. And after a few airings, they're usually gone for good, in favor of newer episodes with newer contestants. Such is the case with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, one of the world's most well-known and iconic game shows. It features contestants answering a set of increasingly difficult, multiple-choice questions for the chance to win $1 million. It's straightforward, easily accessible, and something I watched growing up. The show first premiered in the US in 1999 with Regis Philbin hosting. Philbin hosted during the show's original run, but it was later picked up by Meredith Vieira, arguably their most well-known host, who would go on to film over 1,800 episodes. For its 10th anniversary in 2009, Philbin returned for 11 special episodes to celebrate the series. Despite reportedly high ratings, the whole special has never been uploaded online, though some have tried. During its initial airing, a YouTube user named RomjanLand2 uploaded episodes 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8, albeit incompletely. In 2020, a user named Trips Gaming uploaded these, as well as episode 11 in their entirety, leaving episodes 3, 6, 9, and 10 missing. Finally, in February 2022, a Lost Media Wiki user named Race Olympics recovered all 4 missing episodes. They were later uploaded to the Internet Archive by a user named Fish of the Bulb.
From the studio where it all began 10 years ago, where thousands of Americans have won more than $132 million, the show watched by billions of people all around the world. This is the return of Millionaire.
Fries with that. There's almost no shortage of media becoming lost due to it simply being neglected by their network. Fries with That was a Canadian sitcom that aired on YTV in 2004. It centered on 4 high school students, Patty, Tess, Robin, and Alex, dealing with typical adolescence issues, while working part-time at a fast food restaurant called Bulky's. Despite it lasting 2 seasons, Fries with That was ultimately cancelled due to declining ratings. The show re-aired sporadically during the 2000s, but never received a proper home media release, making episodes difficult to find. In 2013, 16 of its 52 episodes were uploaded to YouTube by user NHSADM, though they were later removed because of copyright. This seemingly increased awareness of the show, and more episodes were recovered in the following years. Then in February of this year, the entire series was uploaded by user Mariah Lambier, the self-proclaimed, quote, biggest Fries with That fan ever. According to the Lost Media Wiki, as well as Mariah herself, these episodes were recovered by a Facebook user named Visa Za. It just goes to show that you can never predict where Lost Media is hiding.
Would you like fries with that?
Yes!
Sumitomo Life, Wallace and Gromit commercial. What's not to love about Wallace and Gromit? The beloved stop-motion duo has entertained audiences since the 1980s, and their popularity has expanded worldwide, including in Japan. In fact, the two teamed up with Sumitomo Life, a Japanese insurance firm, to produce a television commercial which only aired in Japan. According to the Lost Media Wiki, the commercial's description had, quote, Wallace and Gromit riding on their motorbike, with a stunt team of sheep, similar to their animated short A Close Shave. They hit a tortoise, which bears a striking resemblance to Frank the Tortoise from Creature Comforts, another Aardman Nick Park creation, and they all fall off, but then land again in a vertical line, with Wallace and Gromit on top, Sean at the bottom steering, and the tortoise on Sean's head serving as a helmet. Mentions of the commercial can be found on small corners of the internet. Still, the full ad was not uploaded until this year, when an anonymous person emailed Daikate, the founder of the Lost Media Wiki, the full commercial. The person was from Japan, and they supposedly found the lost ad on a DVD. I can only assume that it was a Japan exclusive DVD, but still, this little mystery can be put to rest. 2005 San Marino Grand Prix commercial interruption. So this is an incredibly odd piece of lost media. Don't worry, the 2005 San Marino Grand Prix is not lost. What is, however, is the ad break that interrupted the final laps of the event. Let me explain. The 2005 San Marino Grand Prix was the fourth round of the Formula One World Championship. It was televised by the ITV network, which often resulted in poorly timed ad breaks. During the final 3 laps of the race, ITV interrupted coverage of the event with nearly 3 minutes worth of commercials. Nevertheless, fans missed most of the action and complained to the network. As it turns out, ITV broke a rule within the guidelines for advertising. Basically, they can only place ads in non-notable moments of the broadcast, unlike the final laps of a race. ITV argued that they were contractually obligated to show a specific amount of ads and had no choice but to reluctantly air it during this race. The race in its entirety was later aired without any interruption. Because of all the controversy, the live broadcast of this event, with the interrupting ads, has been totally lost. A YouTube channel named Matt Meerkat 2009-10 did upload part of the race, but they edited out most of the ad break. Still, this showed that a recording of the incident did exist. Finally, in 2022, the full live broadcast was uploaded by YouTuber Automation.
0.4 of a second ahead of Michael Schumacher.
Unleash Blade Trinity on DVD. I'm impressed. The final chapter ends here. On a 2-disc.
Manhunt 2 Uncensored PC release. 2007's Manhunt 2 is widely considered to be one of the most violent video games ever made, for its graphic imagery, plot, and violence. So much so that it was initially banned by several countries, and barred from specific consoles due to its unique adults-only rating. To comply with censorship laws, the game was toned down heavily, including blurring some of the violence and removing certain executions. Although this eventually worked, the original uncensored version of Manhunt 2 for PC became lost media. Rockstar Games, its development company, did release this version of their game in 2009 through an online game store called Direct to Drive. However, the website was bought by Gamefly in 2011, and they too prohibited games that were rated adults only. Because of this, the game was lost again. It seemed like Manhunt 2 was a lost cause until March of 2022, when the uncensored game appeared on the Internet Archive by a user named Scheme Master. Super Meat Boy handheld. In the 2010s, rage-inducing video games were all the rage. Cat Mario, I Want to Be the Guy, The Impossible Game, and others were fodder for YouTubers to play and yell at. It was a simpler time. Super Meat Boy followed suit, starring the title character of the same name, attempting to save his girlfriend from the villainous Dr. Fetus. He does so by going through several razor blade-filled levels. The game was released by Edmund McMillan and Tommy Refness. In 2010, the duo jokingly released an iOS version called Super Meat Boy Handheld. This mobile game mimicked the style and appearance of those shitty Tiger LCD electronics that were everywhere in the 80s and 90s. That's because it was made in response to a different game by Refness called Zits and Giggles being taken off the App Store. The fate of Super Meat Boy handheld wasn't any different, as it was also removed sometime later for unknown reasons. Only 2 gameplay stills, as well as the app's icon, were all that remained. McMillan and Refness themselves admitted to not owning the original IPA file for the game, making it incredibly lost. However, on March 11th, 2022, the game was uploaded to the Internet Archive by a user named Fran189. According to his description, he and his friend, a user named Kimbone, found the game after searching for almost 2 years. Their source has chosen to remain anonymous, but was kind enough to share their copy online. The Irate Gamer game. Speaking of iOS games and old YouTube, let's talk about the Irate Gamer. This online series starred a man named Chris Spores, who gave angry reviews of old video games with lots of swearing and outrage. If that sounds familiar, that's because it was pretty much a carbon copy of the Angry Video Game Nerd, created by James Rolfe. Despite the criticisms and accusations of plagiarism, both are still creating content to this day. In 2013, the AVGN announced its own video game, Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures, a purposefully difficult game in a classic NES style. Sometime later, the Irate Gamer announced his own game for iOS, called the Irate Gamer Game. Although calling it his own game was a bit of a stretch. It was later revealed that this was just a reskin of a different game called Commander Cool, whose website offered a iOS 2D platformer starter kit. Anyways, the plot follows the Irate Gamer trying to get his video game collection back from the Shadow Overlord. It had over 50 levels, and admittedly cool comic book style cutscenes. Plenty of online reviewers were critical of its gameplay and controls, and the whole thing was dropped from the App Store only a few months later. Boris himself confessed on a live stream his disappointment with the game, and that he had no control over its production.
Irate Gamer game, I have no control over that. Somebody's asking if I'm bringing that back. I didn't have control over that. I didn't really like the game that ended up coming out, so...
Due to its poor reception and its small window of availability, the Irate Gamer game quickly became lost media for nearly 10 years, and these old YouTube videos were its only remnants. In 2022, a Lost Media Wiki user, appropriately named Irate Gamer Fan, extracted the game's IPA file from his old iPhone 4 and uploaded it online. Actimel approved by grandmother. We've already covered lost media from Japan and the UK, so now let's do one from the motherland of Russia. Actimel approved by grandmother was an online sketch comedy series that advertised the Actimel drink. It consisted of 5 2-minute episodes and involved a grandmother trying to better her family's health by using traditional folk remedies from her village. The family instead opts for more modern products, like Actimel. While reluctant at first, Grandma ends up liking the product by the end of the series. All 5 episodes, as well as a few trailers, were available on YouTube until 2015, when they were suddenly privated. Only the 2 trailers, one in Russian and one in English, survived. In 2022, all 5 episodes were rediscovered and uploaded to Google Drive. It's an odd series that garnered little attention here in the States, but was apparently pretty popular in Russia. The grandma was played by famed artist Andrei Roskov, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, and visitors to the website could enter a chance to win prizes, including merchandise related to Granny herself. And she became somewhat of a meme on social media. Jeopardy pilot. Very rarely is lost media handed to us by the network or show producers. I always got the impression that preservation meant little to the higher-ups, especially in lieu of their newer and more profitable content. That's what makes the game show Jeopardy such a rare case in this instance. It officially premiered back on March 30th, 1964, and has still been going strong to this day. However, a test pilot was filmed earlier that month, on March 5th, 1964, as the pitch for the series to NBC. This pilot was hosted by Art Fleming and included Grace, Jesse, and Dolores as the contestants. NBC greenlit the pitch to be made into a full series, and thus the test pilot became a piece of lost media. It hasn't been seen since 1964, though a few snippets have been shown throughout the years. During the 4,000th episode of Jeopardy! On May 15, 2002, then host Alex Trebek showed a 24-second clip of the lost pilot. In 2005, a DVD containing 3 more brief clips were released. In 2017, during NBC's 90th anniversary special, yet another clip was shown as well. Despite these small sightings, the full episode has never been officially released or leaked. Then, out of nowhere, on March 23, 2022, the official Jeopardy! YouTube channel posted a trailer announcing that the lost pilot would be uploaded the following week on March 30th, exactly 58 years after the show first premiered. As promised, the episode was uploaded, but sadly taken down 1 week later, but not before it was saved by Internet Archivists. Why 58 years? No clue. But one can hardly complain after being given the long-lost pilot by the show itself. Thanks, Jeopardy! MTV Music Myths and Mysteries. Many of the most well-known lost media mysteries began as curious posts on the web. Online users recalling a vague piece of media from their past, only to start a lengthy but memorable search. In the case of this MTV special, it first appeared on Reddit's r/tipofmytongue in 2017 by a user known as ThatGamingAsshole. The subreddit is used by those who can't remember the name of something they once saw and can't find any information online. He describes the special as having aired sometime in the late 90s to early 2000s. It was apparently pretty ominous in tone, hosted by a woman wearing a trench coat walking in a graveyard. The special discussed myths and conspiracies about musicians, such as the deaths of rappers Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. According to his post, there was even a section about how Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain was spotted at a concert after his death. With such an unusual setting and bizarre content, it's no wonder why this special stayed in this person's mind for over 10 years. Despite this, his post gained little attention and few responses, even on the Lost Media Wiki forums. Though there were some to claim to have seen it, no footage was ever discovered. Besides these posts, nothing else about this strange MTV special can be found. At least until March of 2022. A website containing information about MTV Music Myths and Mysteries was uncovered, along with a YouTube video. Its air date was revealed as November 1999. This was a pretty huge find, and only a week later, the full special was uploaded to YouTube by a channel called Brenner no Densetsu. It's a shoddy VHS recording, but for something that's been lost for over 20 years, it's considered found. The documentary's aesthetic is certainly gloomy and eye-catching, and the worn VHS quality certainly adds to it. The special includes several classic music myths I learned as a teenager, like backmasking to reveal supposed hidden lyrics, or the 27 Club, a collection of musicians who died at the age of 27. The editing, presentation, subject matter, and music certainly makes it feel like an underground bootleg of sorts. And if you enjoy conspiracies like me, you'll definitely get a kick out of it.
From Elvis Presley to Brad Noel of Sublime, it's no secret that the lives of rock stars have been cut short by tragic circumstances. One of the spookiest coincidences may be the existence of the so-called 27 Club, the group of ill-fated performers who all died at the age of 27.
1982 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Beginning in 1924, the department store Macy's has held their annual parade in Manhattan, New York. Known as the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, the event lasts for 3 hours and is known for featuring large helium balloons of famous characters. Since 1953, every parade has been televised nationally on NBC. Unfortunately, most parades pre-1980 have only been partially found. Many are entirely lost, including the first 5 years, and only a small fraction have been saved. The 1982 parade, however, was one of the few post-1980 parades to have been lost entirely. This was odd because, at this point, VCRs were readily available in most homes. Despite this, the 1982 event remained lost to time, and in the coming years, it became known as a classic piece of lost media. That is, until April of 2022, when a YouTube user named Retro Game Planet uploaded low-quality recordings of the broadcast, including balloons of Kermit the Frog, Pod Snoopy, and many others. This implied that they owned a copy of the 1982 parade. Unbeknownst of its rarity, Retro Game Planet listed the tape on eBay, and it was sold within minutes. 4 days later, the entire event was uploaded online by a different account named Laura Branigan Forever, a fan-made channel dedicated to the singer of the same name. And as you might expect, Laura Branigan was featured in the parade, and they were the ones who bought the tape.
We go from the Candyman to the Man of Steel. Somewhere in the city this morning there must be a telephone booth with a giant pair of glasses and a huge discarded business suit. Flying into Herald Square, the man himself, Superman. What a wonder he is.
Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey Deleted Scenes. Cult classic film Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey was released by Disney back in 1993. It starred 3 house pets, an American bulldog named Chance, a golden retriever named Shadow, and a cat named Sassy, as they travel back home after being separated from their owners. The film is cheeky, enjoyable, and even a bit of a tearjerker towards the end, garnering positive reviews and a sequel a few years later. While the film is readily available online and through home media, there were rumors of deleted scenes from the original cut of the film. These include Chance being washed with a hose after eating a wedding cake, the 3 pets going on a car ride, the family kids playing Nintendo, and 4 others, totaling 7 deleted scenes. It was rumored that these were included during the film's original broadcast, as it was common practice back then for TV airings to have extra scenes to fit a given time slot. However, this wasn't proven until April of 2022, when Lost Media Wiki user DarkRage6 obtained a VHS recording of the film's premiere on the Disney Channel. This tape was then transferred by user Rush Musashi, who then uploaded it to MySpleen and archive.org. Unfortunately, it's since been taken down from archive, but re-uploads exist on YouTube. BattleBots, GameCube. I struggled with whether or not I wanted to include stuff like BattleBots on this list. My vision for this video was to include pieces of lost media that were completely found this year, as in the mystery was fully solved. BattleBots, and later Lamborghini, are odd exceptions. While the former is fully found and playable, it's still considered partially lost by the Lost Media Wiki because its PlayStation 2 version is still lost. I'm assuming it's still the same game, just for a different console, so for that reason, I'm including it in this video. With that said, BattleBots was a video game that was supposed to release in 2003 on the GameCube, PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC. It was based on the BattleBots TV show, which pitted motorized robot vehicles against one another. The video game would have been similar, giving players 80 robots to choose from, as well as 20 arenas and 3 different game modes. You could even create your own robots, reportedly. With how popular the show has become, the BattleBots video game could have been a smash hit. So what happened? It was first showcased at E3 2002, where a playable demo was available for players to try. At that time, its release date was later that same year. Unfortunately, the game was pushed back to February 2003 before being delayed again to May 2003. And after that, nothing. It disappeared from the BattleBots website and was never released. But hope was not lost, as footage as well as concept art appeared online as the years went on. Apparently, prototypes of the video game were salvaged and sold for nearly $300. In 2015, a photo was posted to Facebook claiming that seasoned competitor Donald Hudson was playing the BattleBots video game in a hotel lobby until security kicked him out. In 2021, a YouTube channel named Gatorbox showcased 2.5 hours worth of BattleBots gameplay on the GameCube. The following year, Gatorbox uploaded his prototype to the Internet Archive. As stated earlier, the PlayStation 2 version is still lost, but unless there are major console differences, I think it's applicable for this list.
He'll punch you in the balls and kick you in the nuts. Either way, you're screwed. Introducing
Pugsy, SNES port. Speaking of lost ports, Pugsy is a platform game for the Sega Genesis and Sega CD add-on, starring an orange alien who lands on an Earth-like planet. It's also somewhat of a puzzle game, requiring Pugsy, the main character, to solve puzzles in order to advance through the levels, rather than your standard straightforward platform games. Plans to release an SNES version of the game were in development, until it was suddenly cancelled due to Pugsy's poor sales. Game designer John Byrne was the only one to own a copy of the game, and in 2018 he showcased some of its assets. In April of 2022, the Cutting Room Floor tweeted that they had attained a Pugsy SNES game board. The following month, they hosted a 3-hour live stream on Twitch demonstrating the long-lost ports. The ROM was later made available on their website. Quantum Quest. Most pieces of lost media are rather old, incredibly obscure, and/or devoid of any information. But what makes Quantum Quest: A Cassini Space Odyssey one of the most unique items on this list is just how much we knew about this film. Let's explore. On October 5th, 1997, the Cassini-Huygens spacecraft was launched into space, with the goal of reaching the planet Saturn. The mission was a collaboration between NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Italian Space Agency. After several years of traveling through the vastness of space, as well as passing through other planets, the spacecraft accomplished its mission and made it to Saturn in 2004, retrieving valuable data from the planet and its moons. To commemorate this achievement, NASA teamed up with a Taiwanese animation studio called Digimax Inc. to create a film based on the Cassini-Huygens journey. The film was directed by Henry Daw-Clore and was described as an educational space adventure story that incorporated parts of the mission. The most notable detail about Quantum Quest was its all-star voice cast. It featured the talents of Samuel L. Jackson, Chris Pine, Sandra Oh, William Shatner, Mark Hamill, Tom Kenny, and even Neil Armstrong, the first man to step foot on the moon. This would be Armstrong's first and only role, before sadly passing away in 2012. The making of Quantum Quest was riddled with difficulty. Not only was his voice cast altered during production, but the film's story was also changed. This was because new images from the Cassini spacecraft caused the filmmakers to revise the film's plot, including introducing new characters midway through. But what's most baffling of all is that once Quantum Quest was finally completed, it was only ever screened at a single movie theater in a Kentucky Science Center for 6 months. After that, Quantum Quest went missing. Throughout its disappearance, the film's website was up and running. It gave a detailed synopsis of the film's plot, as well as a few trailers and behind-the-scenes videos. It really seemed like Quantum Quest shouldn't have been a lost film, and yet it was. That is, until Spencer Worth Davis of the What If podcast set out to solve this mystery on his new podcast, Finding Quantum Quest, a 5-episode lost media adventure. My brief summary cannot do the search justice, so I highly recommend checking it out when you're done with this video. But Quantum Quest wouldn't be on this list if it hadn't been found, and on May 10th, 2022, the film was officially released to video on demand by Giant Pictures.
Light will never give way to your darkness! Are you the Cassini commander?
Duke Nukem Forever, 2001 beta. 3D Realms' Duke Nukem is perhaps one of the most 90s creations ever made. Beginning in 1991, Duke Nukem starred in a series of self-titled video games filled with over-the-top violence, humor, and aggressive manliness all around. In 1997, a 4th installment called Duke Nukem Forever was announced, and a trailer was even released the following year. However, the game fell into production issues, such as constantly switching game engines and failing to meet deadlines. 3 years later, a second trailer was released at E3 2001, with the tagline, "When it's done," at the very end. Unfortunately, this wouldn't happen in the years to come, and in 2009, 3D Realms' development team was disbanded, halting all progress on Duke Nukem Forever. In 2010, the rights were sold to Gearbox Studios, who were able to finish and release the fabled game in 2011, 14 years after it was announced. The game was not reviewed favorably, leaving many to wonder what the original builds looked like. Well, we got our first look via a 4chan post on May 8th of this year. An anonymous user went to the V, or video games board, and wrote, "Duke is coming, here's a taste. Happy Mother's Day, V." Attached was a video with never-before-seen material from the 2001 build.
Let's dance.
The leaker referred to themselves as a group named X0R_JMP, consisting of, quote, "everybody working on preparing this leak." George Broussard, one of the original developers from 3D Realms, confirmed that the leak was genuine and that he didn't know who was responsible. The group insisted that, although the game wasn't complete, a huge chunk was playable. They initially gave a release date of June of the same year, but this ended up being a lie, and the beta was released on May 10th instead via Anon files. Lamborghini. As mentioned in the BattleBots entry, Lamborghini is another game that's considered partially lost due to its PlayStation 2 version still being missing. There isn't much to say here. It seemed like a generic 2000s racing video game, allowing players to compete against each other using Lamborghinis. It was cancelled after its production company, Rage Software, sadly went bankrupt in 2003, and its assets were reused for a different racing game called Juice. Although a playable demo of Lamborghini was included in some issues of the official Xbox magazine. In 2022, a user on the Obscure Gamers forum, named Frozen, managed to track down one of the game's playtesters, who still had an Xbox copy. It was shared online and made playable thanks to a patch provided by users of the Obscure Gamers forum. Marble Madness 2. Atari's 1984 Marble Madness is often heralded as one of the most iconic arcade video games. Its simplicity yet difficulty garnered critical and commercial success. All you do is control a marble through 6 courses, some filled with enemies and obstacles. The game was rather short, however, and can be beaten in a matter of minutes. So the company began work on a sequel with more levels, enemies, and power-ups, but all the fun gameplay one would expect, called Marble Man, Marble Madness 2. It was set to be released in 1991, but as the new decade came, so did the popularity of fighting games like Street Fighter. Not only that, but early tests of Marble Madness 2 didn't go so well. The controls and visuals in particular were criticized. For these reasons, Atari decided to cancel the sequel, in favor of producing a game called Guardians of the Hood instead, a typical 90s action-packed fighting game that they probably thought would do better. Since then, Marble Madness 2 has been considered a lost video game, a highly sought-after and valuable piece of memorabilia by collectors. It's not without its discoveries, however. Several cabinets containing the game have been obtained or even assembled by arcade enthusiasts, though collectors are often reluctant to share their rare possessions, as it degrades their value. Such is the case with Marble Madness 2, and there are at least 3 cabinets known to exist, but the ROM was never uploaded online, only footage of the gameplay. So how was the game eventually found? Well, no one knows for sure at the time of writing the script. It appeared unexpectedly on the Internet Archive, uploaded by a user named Dank2079. The upload's description gives no new information, and their page has no other uploads. I think David Hayward, longtime MAME developer, said it best. I think the most likely explanation is the simplest. A PCB turned up, the owner dumped the ROM data from it, and put it on the Internet Archive, not wanting the attention it would bring with a more public announcement. Skatoony, original British version. Skatoony is really strange. It was a game show that premiered in 2006 on Cartoon Network UK and pitted real kids against cartoon characters. The show was hosted by Chud Chudders and the Earl, and would give away prizes like iPhones and video game consoles. The game consisted of 6 contestants and 4 rounds, with players being eliminated as the episode continued. Oddly enough, Skatoony was remade for North American audiences in 2010, featuring new characters, contestants, and a new voice cast. Notably, some of the contestants were replaced by characters from shows such as Jimmy Two Shoes and Total Drama Island. While the American version is available online, a handful of episodes from the UK version were missing. The search came to an end in May of this year, when YouTube user Taylor Wright uploaded the final missing episodes, rendering the entire series as found.
Sounds real sweet to me. It's crazy, wacky, loony, baby. It's Skatoony.
The Mouse Factory. In the 1970s, Disney produced one of its earliest TV shows, The Mouse Factory. The program was unique at the time as it mixed live action and animated segments. Sometimes the episodes would be interspersed with clips from Disney cartoons. Other times the character would be live action in one scene to suddenly animated in another. It was a novel concept that sadly wasn't enough to garner an audience, as the show was cancelled after a mere 2 seasons. Nevertheless, reruns aired in the 80s and 90s on the Disney Channel. However, not only was the show never given a home media release, it strangely never appeared on Disney's streaming service, Disney+. In 2021, only a handful of episodes were available, some of which were only in the Serbian dub. All that changed in 2022 when a user named Halloween Guy claimed that he had all 43 episodes and was going to upload them to the Internet Archive. Right on time, the entire show was made available for the first time in about 50 years.
And now, Mickey Mouse proudly presents The Mouse Factory.
Demon Lady plane commercial. Oh boy, this one will just not leave me alone. I've already talked about this Lost commercial a bit, and it always seems to have more to give. Basically, a few years ago, people on Reddit began talking about a terrifying commercial they saw years prior. Though there were a few disagreements about some of the details, what they all shared in common was the appearance of a demonic-looking woman. Even TV Tropes had this description on their website. Quote, "There was a commercial for a card bar, and it took place in a baby shower. One of the women in said shower offered the pregnant woman some cake, to which the pregnant woman declined, instead sticking to eating said card bar. Then, without warning, the face of the woman who offered the cake went all demonic and scary. Absolutely no one knows the name of the card bar being advertised." I first discussed this mystery in my Lost Media Case File series in 2021. A user named John found the ad in one of those commercial compilation videos uploaded back in 2011. Turns out, it was for a protein bar called Carb Solutions, and funny enough, it was the first ad featured in the compilation. This discovery reappeared in last year's Lost Media Found in 2021 video. But what I, admittedly, completely forgot about was the second commercial. Several Reddit users recalled a version of the ad that took place in an airplane that involved a flight attendant. Despite knowing the brand name, this alternate version was nowhere to be found until 2022, when a YouTube channel named Junkies Tape In uploaded, surprise surprise, a commercial compilation that had the plane ad about 11 minutes in.
Snack mix? Snack mix? Snack mix?
Oh, no, thanks. I'm watching my carbohydrates.
Everyone else is eating it.
No, thanks.
So, snack mix?
Come on, take the snack mix.
Thanks. I'm all set with this.
Okay, then.
Now it's easy to be good and stick to your low-carb diet with Carb Solutions delicious bars and shakes. Carb Solutions, it's good to be good.
Fat Albert, Busted, uncensored version. Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids was an educational animated series that taught viewers lessons on serious topics. These range from personal hygiene and love to more severe issues like racism, child abuse, and drug use. One of these episodes tackled the consequences of breaking the law. In the Season 8 episode Busted, Fat Albert and the gang take a trip to the pool using Lenny's car. Unbeknownst to them, the car was actually stolen by Lenny, and they get caught by the police. Thankfully, the cop understands that the gang was unaware of the stolen vehicle and takes them to the state prison to steer them straight. This is where the lost media comes into play. When the episode premiered, the prison inmates would say swear words like hell or bastard.
What are you staring at, you rotten little bastard? You think you're in the zoo, huh? Come here, I'll tear you apart with my bare hands. Come here!
Later airings were censored, as well as the DVD releases.
What are you staring at, you rotten little... You think you're in the zoo, huh? Come here, I'll tear you apart with my...
Since the episode aired in the 1980s, somebody might have recorded its premiere and thus the uncensored version. This actually ended up happening when a user named Rich Gangsta claimed to have a VHS recording of the original episode, saying that the tape belonged to his uncle. Although some were skeptical, Rich Gangsta later uploaded a clip to the Lost Media Wiki Discord, containing the uncensored dialogue, proving its legitimacy. He later uploaded it to the Internet Archive. Oddly, there doesn't appear to be a channel watermark or any commercials, leading some to believe that this came from a master tape.
These are men in here that are crazy. Men that will beat the hell out of you and never even know they did it. People die in here. Oh, you smell so good. Come closer, let me sniff you. I want the fat one. Give me the fat one. Why the fat one?
Darcy's Wild Life. Darcy's Wild Life was a quirky sitcom that aired on Discovery Kids in the mid-2000s. The show is about a teenager named Darcy Fields, whose famous mother decides to move from the glamorous Malibu to the quiet countryside. Darcy has to adapt to her new environment, while meeting new friends and, of course, animals. The show was successful enough to garner 2 seasons and 33 episodes in total, yet it vanished after it eventually stopped airing. Hardly any footage was available before its discovery. Sarah Paxton, the actress who played Darcy Fields, included a few clips from the show in her music video for Take a Walk. Some advertisements showed brief snippets here and there, but for the most part, the entire series was utterly lost. It wasn't until June 13th, 2022, that a YouTube user named CandyPants LLC found and uploaded the entire show. Unfortunately, their channel was since taken down, but re-uploads exist.
Hey girl, you having fun? Yeah. Say goodbye to life on the run. Welcome to normal child life. What you see is what you get in Darcy's Wild Life.
Persona X Detective Naoto. In 2012, a spin-off of the popular game Persona 4 was announced, in the form of a light novel named Persona X Detective Naoto. It would have been set 1 year after the game's events, and starred Naoto, now a police detective. A manga adaptation followed suit, and while most of the chapters are available, chapters 13 to 19 were lost media. The entire manga was split into 3 volumes, or tankobons as they're called. These volumes were released under the Dengeki Comics Next label, but for whatever reason, the 3rd issue of Dengeki Comics was never released, as was the 3rd volume of the manga, which contained the last few chapters. YouTuber Fither brought attention to the missing chapters in one of his videos, kickstarting the search. After his video was published, he received a tip from one of his viewers, who had chapters 13, 15, 16, 17, 19, and a surprising 20th chapter that was previously undiscovered. According to this viewer, they found the missing chapters from an old Flickr account 7 years ago. Chapter 14 was sent to Fither by a different viewer of his, and in June of this year, the final 18th chapter was emailed to him by the owner of that Flickr account mentioned previously, Sesame Street, 847. What is undoubtedly the most significant find of 2022, Sesame Street's Wicked Witch episode, has long been considered one of the holy grails of lost media. It's one of the first pieces that got me into the topic back in 2015, so seeing it come to life is something I, and many others, never thought would happen. I previously made a video discussing this episode's history and rediscovery, but to summarize, in 1976, Sesame Street aired an episode featuring Margaret Hamilton, reprising her role as the Wicked Witch of the West. She visits Big Bird, Oscar the Grouch, and all the other lovable cast of characters to teach viewers about planning and fear. Unfortunately, the episode garnered many letters from angry parents, who complained that the witch terrified their children. You can find most of these letters online, and they accuse the show of paganism, Satanism, and general mishandling of their content. After more test screenings with mixed results, Sesame Workshop decided to cease airing the episode altogether, and from that point forward, it became lost media. As the years went on, small search efforts were conducted by fans online, but they uncovered only photos from the episode. Not 1 second of footage was available until 2019, when the Museum of the Moving Image announced an event called Sesame Street Lost and Found. It took place in New York and was a screening of some of the rarest clips from Sesame Street's archives. The long-lost Wicked Witch episode was included, making this the first time since 1976 that it's been shown to the public. Granted, it wasn't the entire episode and was never made available outside the screening, so while some like myself witnessed a glimmer of footage, it was still considered lost. But then 2022 rolled around, and I was awoken by the sudden news that the episode, in its entirety, had anonymously leaked online. News of the leak erupted, and the story even appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. There are plenty of theories on where the leak originated from, but considering how strict Sesame Workshop is with its rare content, it's not surprising that the leakers wanted to remain anonymous and vague.
You know something? You have got to be the most beautiful person I have ever seen.
Oh, keep still.
Wow, I think I'm in love.
Gangnam Style Massacre. Nothing will ever surprise me more than when something called Gangnam Style Massacre was found this year. I was flabbergasted reading that title. Jokes aside, this one is actually a little more serious, so let's get into it. Gangnam Style Massacre was a low-effort mobile game for iOS, released in 2012. It was obviously meant to capitalize on Psy's hit song Gangnam Style, but neither he, the song, or even the dance craze appeared in the game. Instead, we got a generic-looking schoolgirl shooting arrows at someone bearing Psy's resemblance. In December of that year, a tragic shooting occurred at Sandy Hook Elementary School, resulting in 27 casualties, including the shooter. It became one of the deadliest school shootings in American history, and cannot possibly be done justice in a few short sentences. Within hours of the event occurring, Gangnam Style Massacre was reworked into Gangnam Dance School, sporting a new icon and completely different gameplay. A reason was never officially given for this change, but some believe that the Sandy Hook Massacre was involved, given the coincidental timing. Whatever the reason, the original version of this game was lost for quite some time, until its IPA reappeared on the Internet Archive by user ComputerDude77. Princesses. This CBS show lasted less than a month in the early 90s, totaling 8 episodes. Princesses told the story of 3 roommates living in New York. Tracy is an English teacher who recently broke up with her fiancé, Georgina is a widowed princess, and Melissa is Tracy's longtime best friend. Not only did the show receive negative reviews, but it also went through severe production issues. Reportedly, one of the actresses even walked off set, which caused a stir in entertainment magazines. Because of all the bad press, CBS canceled the series after having only aired 5 of its 8 episodes. These 5 were uploaded by the YouTube user Sheffield VHS, but amazingly, the 3 remaining unaired episodes were also found and posted online by a channel called The Dark One is Rising.
Someday my prince will come, Someday I'll find my love, and how thrilling that moment will be when the prince of my dreams comes to me.
Whew. We are halfway through the year, and there's still an hour left of video. Clearly, you enjoy Lost Media, so why not visit the Wiki's new store? Featuring awesome designs like this London After Midnight parody, and one celebrating the Wiki's 10th anniversary. The store is brand new, and more designs are to come. All proceeds go straight to the Lost Media Wiki's efforts to preserve our content, and maintaining the website, of course. Click the link in the description below, and grab yourself a tea. Alright, onward to the video. 110 Lombard Street pilot. 110 Lombard Street is an incredibly obscure yet fascinating piece of media. It was a failed TV pilot from 1987 and was produced by Second City, a comedy troupe from Chicago. Most notably, the program starred comedy giants Ryan Stiles and Mike Myers, before they became famous. Besides those tidbits, very little was known about the show. A few Vulture articles and one clip on YouTube were all that remained. They showcased Mike Myers' character struggling to impress his girlfriend's father, whilst also deciding on whether he should take a new job that would have required him to move to California. The rest of 110 Lombard Street remained elusive. It wasn't even known if it aired at all. Throughout the years, a few more clips would surface to YouTube. One featured Myers' character arguing with his girlfriend's father, and another with Ryan Stiles' character having nightmares about being bitten by a vampire. The mystery finally concluded when a YouTube user named PollyG70 uploaded the full pilot onto his channel. Supposedly the pilot was once available on Second City's official YouTube channel, but was later privated for unknown reasons. Popeye Animatic. There have been many unexpected and strange discoveries of Lost Media this year, but the animatic to the cancelled Popeye film is one of the most bizarre. We all know and love Popeye the Sailor Man, the spinach-loving action-packed hero reminding kids to eat their vegetables. In the early 2010s, the character was set to helm his own animated film, produced by Sony Pictures Animation. The film was going to be directed by Genndy Tartakovsky, and was initially slated to be released in 2014. During the same year, Sony Pictures Animation released a test animation for the film, receiving widespread praise from viewers. It honestly looked like a great Popeye film was in the works. Sadly, the film's shaky production led to numerous delays, and Tartakovsky eventually departed from the project altogether. Quote, "Basically, it's dead. We were so successful with it, our tests and the story we put together. But at the end of the day, they wanted a new Popeye, and I wasn't willing to go where they had in mind." Despite some attempts to revive the project, some even as late as 2020, Popeye would never see an official release. And this test animation was the only glimpse into what might have been. In July of 2022, 24 hours after the film was confirmed to be cancelled permanently, its complete animatic was uploaded online by the YouTube channel Chip Buddy, obviously a throwaway account. It's theorized that this user was someone who worked on the film or was close to its production in some way. Sony has been taking down re-uploads of the animatic, so we won't be showing too much footage. Instrumental's promo album. Fear Factory is a metal band from 1989 who are still performing to this day. To coincide with the release of their fourth album, Digimortal, the group released a promo album called Instrumentals. It featured instrumental versions of the tracks set to appear in Digimortal. Strangely, the last three tracks, Slide Song, Loop Song, and Trainwreck, were changed into Dead Man Walking, Back the Fuck Up, and Repentance, respectively. While the album was eventually released, the original versions of the last three tracks were lost for some time. That is, until a YouTube channel, appropriately named Rare Factory, uploaded the entire original album online. Fire Kills PSA. Fire Kills is a well-known PSA campaign, set out to teach viewers about the dangers of fire hazards. They also scared the daylights out of children, and one of their most infamous public information films, or PIFs, was called Make Your Plan, Get Out Alive. According to the Lost Media Wiki, it featured 3 scenarios in which a house fire occurs, demonstrating their spontaneous and dangerous nature. They are a pair of siblings in their bedroom, an older woman locked in her home, and a teen who trips and falls in his hallway. These 3 were compiled into a single ad, which is readily available online, whereas the 3 separate ads, each featuring new footage, was lost for some time. In 2022, a YouTube channel named Loogie Baloogie acquired high-quality rips of the ads from their art director Dexter Ginn and copywriter David Jennings. They were subsequently uploaded to YouTube, marking them as found media.
How will you get out alive?
Boo Berry, 1-minute version. For some reason in the 1970s, a lineup of monster mascots for children's cereals were produced, including Count Chocula, Frankenberry, and Boo Berry, a ghostly blue-tinted apparition. In 1973, the trio of monsters appeared in a 30-second ad together. Count Chocula and Frankenberry are arguing in their lair when Boo Berry arrives at the front door. He introduces himself and his cereal brand before the 3 all start arguing over which is better. While this commercial only lasted 30 seconds, a 1-minute version was also said to exist, including more dialogue and scenes. VH1's is Totally Obsessed, and Food Network's Unwrapped gave us glimpses of the full commercial. But it wasn't until July of this year when the full 1-minute commercial was found by a user known as Mirrorcake.
Frankenberry's got strawberry-flavored sweeties.
Count Chocula's got chocolate sweeties.
But I've got blueberry-flavored sweeties. Frankenberry.
Count Chocula.
And brand new blueberry-flavored Blueberry.
Kung Fu Wa Test Pilot. Kung Fu Wa is a Chinese animated series, premiering on August 3rd, 2021. The plot follows an 8-year-old girl named Ti Yang, or TZ in the English dub, who encounters a talking sock. The sock explains that he was once a kung fu master named Kung Fu Wa, and that he must guard an ancient scroll from evil. When Ti Yang wears the sock, she transforms into a martial arts superhero, Kung Fu Girl. After defeating a monster with her new abilities, Ti Yang and Kung Fu Wa team up to fight evil and protect their world. The test pilot was released sometime in 2020 and featured both characters sporting a different look. YouTube user Ostros, who claimed to have worked on the series, uploaded the test pilot online in August of 2022. Video Mods. Video Mods was a strange series on MTV2 in the mid-2000s that starred video game characters performing to popular songs at the time. Last year, we discussed the missing SpongeBob episode, with SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, and others dancing to All the Small Things by Blink-182. Despite being the most well-known lost episode of Video Mods, there were a handful of others. And on August 5th, 2022, the entire series was officially considered found when a YouTube channel called Video Mods uploaded the episode for Pain by Jimmy E. World, the last one to be missing. According to their channel, this user is someone who worked on the show, who pulled the episodes from their original masters and upscaled to 1080p. A Boy and His Blob, DS. 1989's A Boy and His Blob, Trouble on Bloblonia, is a weird NES title. It stars a nameless boy and his blob, an alien named Blobbert, as they save its home planet from an evil emperor. The game is a puzzle platformer, and Blob has the ability to transform into tools, like ladders, trampolines, and umbrellas, to help you progress in the game. How does it do this? Well, with the power of jelly beans, of course. The game received lukewarm reviews, a Player's Choice Awards, and a 1991 sequel for the Game Boy titled The Rescue of Princess Blobette. Plans were even in place for a film based on A Boy and His Blob, But this obviously fell through, as did their development company, Absolute Entertainment. Despite this, a third game in the series was in the works for the Nintendo DS. The plot would have revolved around the same nameless boy, who is now 16 years old, as he reunites with Blobert to stop the evil emperor from enslaving the human race. Majesco announced the game in 2005, and footage was shown at E3 of the same year. Unfortunately, it was met with pretty negative reviews for its boring levels and weird character design, ultimately resulting in the game's cancellation. Instead, we got a remake for the Nintendo Wii, simply titled A Boy and His Blob, released in 2009. This reimagining sports a cute, softer art style and stars a younger-looking protagonist. Although it received fairly well reviews upon release, many were still curious as to what the cancelled sequel would have been. Well, we got our answer when an anonymous developer sent 2 unfinished ROMs to the team at Digino Gaming. Since development stopped midway through production, the sequel is roughly 40% complete, and stops working after the Second World. The ROMs were documented in a video by Digino Gaming and released on Gaming Alexandria, a website dedicated to video game preservation, with permission from the developer. Nicktoons zombified bumpers. So this was a neat little mystery that first appeared on Reddit, when various users asked about a supposedly disturbing set of commercials that aired on Nickelodeon's sister channel Nicktoons. One post from 2020 on r/tipofmytongue describes them as disturbing, and that they gave OP nightmares when they were little. A different post from 2019 claims that these commercials had zombified versions of Nicktoons characters, such as Cosmo and Wanda from the Fairly OddParents, Fanboy and Chum Chum from Fanboy and Chum Chum, and Bessie from the Mighty Bee. However, no videos or even screenshots from these strange ads were online. In January of this year, a user named Wormy made a thread on the Lost Media Wiki forums, saying, quote, "I've been searching for a series of Halloween bumpers from 2011 that aired on Nicktoons. They were called Nicktoons Gets Zombified, and basically would include disturbing, dead Bard-esque imagery of Nicktoons characters either laughing maniacally, distorted and all with creepy ominous music, or groaning in what sounded like physical pain. Also constant cuts in and out during the bumps, old grey damaged film effects, and the Nicktoons logo designed to be all scuffed up with the words zombified underneath, with a narrator reading over it. I distinctly remember these bumpers scarring me when I was 10, not even single-digit age, and hiding underneath my blankets whenever they would come on. Call back to the Lost episode Creepypasta comparison. They were something straight out of a Trollpasta entry, except they existed." Beneath his post was a list of all known bumpers, including a fourth one that featured SpongeBob and Patrick. The thread didn't receive much attention at first, but in March of the same year, users found video thumbnails via the Wayback Machine, except for SpongeBob's. This discovery kicked the search into high gear, and not long after were more discoveries made. Snippets of the Fairly OddParents bumper were found, as well as Fanboy and Chum Chums via an animator's demo reel. The accounts containing the reels were long abandoned, so although contacting them provided the best chance of finding the other ones, it was a very slim chance. Nevertheless, messages were sent by fellow YouTuber L Supersonic Q, and the search continued. Things died down in the following months, until August of 2022, when the full zombified bumpers for Fairly OddParents, Fanboy Chum Chum, and the Mighty Bee appeared on the RetroVault's TV archive. Their description credits a user named BowDown97 for initially finding them, and according to that user, the SpongeBob bumper most likely never existed. Sailor Moon Toon Maker's pilot. While 2022 has been filled year-round with lost media finds, none of them received the same level of publicity as Toon Maker's Sailor Moon adaptation. This is another classic topic that no one thought would ever get discovered, Until this year happened. In the early 90s, Sailor Moon was a massive hit in Japan, so plans were made to bring the series overseas to Western audiences. Rather than simply dubbing it, the animation studio Toon Makers wanted to produce an Americanized version of the anime, complete with a new animation style and an integration of live-action elements. A 17-minute pitch pilot was made in the hopes of turning it into a full series, but sadly, the premise was never picked up. Toon Makers would seemingly go out of business, and their pilot became lost media. Before this year, very little remained of the project, notably a 2-minute music video that showcased the series. Only a low-quality recording of the music video existed, giving viewers a brief glimpse of the Americanized Sailor Moon. Despite its campiness, it garnered attention from Sailor Moon fans, who wished to see the project fully realized. Well, that wish was granted when fellow lost media YouTuber Raymona set out to uncover this lost pilot in her 2-part documentary. Without giving too much away, and with it obviously being included in this video, the pilot was ultimately discovered and subsequently uploaded in August of 2022.
This is where
Earthworm Jim Test Animation. Earthworm Jim's lost test animation has been an incredibly peculiar piece of lost media. For a long while, not much was known about it, and the few novel bits of information that were available were unsourced. Let's start with what was definitely known. Earthworm Jim is a space-traversing, evil-fighting superhero who starred in several video games throughout the 1990s. Due to the character's popularity, it's no wonder he received his own self-titled series in 1995, which ran for 2 seasons and aired on the Kids WB. In 2018, a Twitter user named AWDTwit posted a magazine scan with never-before-seen stills from the show. Earthworm Jim has a slightly altered look, and even the animation's timecode is present. According to the magazine's description, these pictures are from the test animation that were shown to Warner Bros. In order to sell them the show. This kickstarted the search for this lost animation, but it was never stated where this magazine came from. There were also claims that it once aired on TV, but this cannot be confirmed. Progress was slow, until August of this year, when the full animation appeared online by YouTube user GobberLol. Esurance Speed Racer commercial. In the 2000s, the insurance company Esurance began airing their new line of animated commercials, featuring their new mascot, Erin Esurance. She often found herself in intense vehicle-related action sequences that were resolved thanks to Esurance and their policies. So when the Wachowskis' film Speed Racer released in 2008, a partnership between the two companies seemed inevitable. Therefore, a commercial was produced, starring Erin driving a pink vehicle to the premiere of the film. Unfortunately, the film received meh reviews from critics and was a commercial failure. The mascot of Erin Esurance was discontinued in 2010. Because the commercials are considered classic memorabilia of the 2000s, all of them are available to watch online. All except for the Speed Racer commercial, which was lost for many years. Supposedly, it was once available on YouTube and Vimeo, but have either been removed or privated in the years since. There is a 12-second cut of the commercial that gave us a peek at what it looked like, but the full ad went undiscovered until September of 2022, when it appeared on a commercial compilation uploaded to YouTube.
Speed Racer. Thank you. In theaters May 9th. Go to esurance.com to see exclusive clips from Speed Racer.
The Works PSA. The search for this missing PSA is an odd but humorous tale, and a classic case of lost media being under our noses. The Works is a peculiar PSA created by the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. It shows a large mechanical body being fed various foods and drinks via a conveyor belt. The camera pans throughout its various body parts to show everything working as normal. Suddenly, a spike-covered ball labeled drugs appears on the conveyor belt, and when it enters the body, it starts to malfunction and collapse. The PSA ends with the tagline, "Drugs can really break your body down." In 2019, contact was made with the PSA's director. He claimed to have remembered working on it, but never confirmed whether he had it saved or not. In 2021, a 10-second version, as well as a 20-second version, was found online. Finally, in 2022, a Lost Media Wiki user named BrandonTheFan01 discovered the full 30-second PSA on a Cartoon Network commercial compilation video posted to YouTube by Captain Bizarre. Funny enough, the video was posted in 2018, meaning it went undiscovered for 4 years. Arm Champs. Arm Champs is a 1988 game about arm wrestling. If you're like me, you're probably wondering how it worked. Arm wrestling is a test of pure strength, whereas most arcade games are played with only a joystick and some buttons. Well, the cabinet has a robotic arm that the player would grab to play against the machine. A neat idea, to be honest, and this innovation warranted the game a sequel in 1992 called Arm Champs 2. While this game is well documented and not lost, the original remained lost for many years. The game had players arm wrestle against various opponents from different parts of the world, such as America, Germany, the UK, and so on. One mode allowed you to freely select your opponent, while tournament mode pitted the player against one opponent after another in increasing difficulty. In September of this year, a Twitter user named PhilBennett3D announced that he acquired a board set for the fabled game. Within the same day, he dumped the ROM online, making it available for the first time in roughly 30 years. Granny Fanny Nesselrode skits. Damn it, Granny. In Sesame Street's earlier days, they featured a Muppet known as Granny Fanny Nesselrode. She was the kind old lady who attempted to answer fan-submitted questions in her Answer Lady skits. Unfortunately, she would fail comedically before being saved by her co-host, Guy Smiley. The skits were charming and funny, and did manage to teach valuable lessons to children, albeit through her co-host. Granny Fanny Nesselrode continued her antics until being phased out in the 1980s, never quite reaching main character status. Because of this, most of her Answer Lady sketches have been lost to time. Old school viewers will remember when I featured her missing skits in my Lost Sesame Street video from 2018. Back then, only 3 Answer Lady sketches were known to exist. We now know that there are 6 in total: Pencil, Household Hints, Ketchup Problem, Classifying Kittens, Telephone, and Alphabets. Classifying Kittens was the only one to be fully found in English, whereas the others were missing to various degrees. Pencil was completely lost. No videos or images of this skit existed. Throughout the years, various Granny segments started appearing on YouTube. A channel named JFriendsFan96 contained Classifying Kittens and Telephone. A different user named John Woo Yun, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, uploaded Ketchup Problem. But the strangest of all was when a throwaway Discord account submitted all of the Answer Lady sketches, including the final 3 lost skits, Household Hints, Pencil, and Alphabet, to longtime member of the Lost Media Wiki, YoshiKiller2S. They were subsequently uploaded to YouTube, marking all of the Answer Lady skits found.
And now, from her cozy, sun-filled kitchen in Coat Corners, New Hampshire, we bring you Granny Fanny Nesselrode, the Answer Lady.
Hi there.
And here she is now, the lady with an answer to every one of your problems.
Yes.
Here's Granny.
Oh, dear. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Kingdom Hearts Pilot. Kingdom Hearts is an established JRPG series developed by Square Enix in collaboration with Disney, and makes use of many beloved characters from both companies. This includes characters from the Disney films, as well as the Final Fantasy video game series. The first game was released for the PlayStation 2 in 2002. During that same year, a possible Disney Channel show was in the works. The pilot was directed and produced by Seth Kearsley, and only reached the animatic phase, though it was fully voiced. Although Disney saw potential in this project, following the success of the first game, the pitch was ultimately turned down. There are conflicting reports on the reasoning, such as rumors of the pilot being too dark, but Seth Kearsley has gone on record to claim that Disney wanted to prioritize the continuation of the game series. While the Kingdom Hearts fandom had been well aware of the pilot's existence for quite some time, it's through Seth Kearsley himself that the storyboards of The Lost Pilot were unveiled. Kearsley was hesitant to upload the pilot itself, though decided to do so following a life-threatening car accident. It was shortly following this that Kearsley was able to digitize his VHS copy and upload it to YouTube. Unfortunately, the upload was removed only 4 days later, as Kearsley was suggested he do so by a former Disney coworker. Thankfully, the animatic was preserved on archive.org prior to the takedown.
Around these parts, heroes are found in all sorts of places, from Olympus to Wonderland.
SpongeBob Got Milk commercial. This topic was an unexpected surprise in the lost media community, and it quickly became popular this year. The rediscovery of a lost SpongeBob commercial, featuring a tie-in with the classic Got Milk advertising campaign, seemingly gripped everyone's attention, and not long after, a search commenced. According to those who recalled viewing the commercial, it aired sometime during the early 2000s, and featured SpongeBob and Patrick drinking chocolate milk. Patrick gets the famous milk mustache on his upper lip, while SpongeBob's mustache keeps getting absorbed by his spongy body. The print ad, which features stills from the commercial, reads, "Milk mustaches don't last long when you're a sponge, which means I may have to drink another glass of yummy chocolate milk. Or 2, or 3, or 4. When this mystery was brought to the attention of the Nick Story Discord, a user from said Discord uncovered this new still image. Not long after, it reached the Lost Media forums, where more discoveries were made, such as this post about the Lost commercial from the Sponge Buddy Mania forums from late 2010, and several news articles, one of which, from Bloomberg, gives us a definitive air date, February 24th, 2001. This article's description of the commercial perfectly lines up with what's online. Quote, "SpongeBob tries again and again to get his chocolate milk mustache to stick, but finds his spongy body is eager to absorb the nutritious goodness of the tasty drink." This was definitive proof that the Lost commercial does in fact exist, and given its precise air date, searchers began meticulously combing through Nickelodeon ads from 2001, as well as Got Milk commercial compilations posted to YouTube. The search came to a sudden end on October 14th, 2021, when a low-quality home recording of the commercial appeared in the Lost Media Wiki Discord by a user named Alatech12. A direct upload was later posted to his YouTube channel, The Toon Archivist.
Chocolate milk. You can absorb it for yourself. Got chocolate milk?
Mario Kart XXL. By 2004, the Mario Kart series of games was already 12 years old with 4 official releases. Following the release of Mario Kart Double Dash in 2003, the Daenerys Entertainment Software put together a tech demo titled Mario Kart XXL. It was primarily made to demonstrate the visual capabilities of the Game Boy Advance, specifically the console's ability to render, scale, and rotate 2 different backgrounds simultaneously. The demo was even pitched to Nintendo of Europe following its creation in 2004, but any collaboration was turned down. Video footage of the demo has been online as late as 2015, and the cartridge was initially discovered by YouTuber Steven78, also known as Steam69. The demo itself is rather simplistic, and only features one course, which strongly resembles the Mario Kart Super Circuit course, Peach Circuit. In addition, background visuals are similar to Shy Guy Beach, and the music used was taken from the PlayStation and PC game Crazy Chicken Kart. Following this YouTube upload, Steven sold the cartridge to an unknown buyer for $600. The whereabouts of the demo were unknown following this, though game preservation group Forest of Illusion posted a tweet in 2020 in search of the buyer. 2 years later, Forest of Illusion replied to the original tweet promising, quote, more details soon. 1 month later, on October 15th, the full ROM was posted to the Forest of Illusion website. Bear in the Big Blue House. Who would have thought that a Disney show as classic as Bear in the Big Blue House would have missing episodes? Despite its popularity and generally long run, a small amount of its content was lost media. First debuting in 1997, the show followed Bear and his friends on their daily adventures as they learned to solve everyday problems. Each episode ends with Bear and the moon Luna singing their iconic goodbye song. The series ran for 4 seasons before ultimately ending in 2006. Throughout the years, efforts have been made to recover the missing episodes. Most, but not all of the episodes, were made available via home media, and it was simply a matter of getting them online. Funny enough, the show was marked completely found with the advent of Disney+. There are a few pieces of lost media that have been found thanks to streaming services, so it's always a nice surprise. Empire Square. Empire Square is one of the most obscure TV shows on this list, and something I had never heard of prior to making this video. In essence, Empire Square is the UK's version of South Park, and stars 3 delinquent children, Richie, Rabbit, and Hooks. The trio go about their day trying to make a quick buck through get-rich-quick schemes. It was full of profanity and sported a unique pixelated style. For many years, these episodes were completely missing, with the only remnants of the series being a promo from Binside TV. One episode was available on YouTube, but has since been privatized. In October of this year, YouTube user Goofy Stinky Goblin uploaded the entire series after ripping it from a DVD.
Look at all these birds, they're well fit.
Only because they've been touched up with an airbrush.
I knew a girl who touched herself up with a hairbrush once. She didn't look like that though, she was special needs. Next!
The Toy Box Killer audio tape. This piece of lost media was truly one of, if not the most, unexpected finds this year. It's a lot more grim than some of the others we've talked about, so let's jump in. David Parker Ray, also known as the Toy Box Killer, was an American serial killer who was accused of committing unspeakable acts of assault towards his victims. Though no bodies were officially found, it is widely believed by police that Ray had upwards of 60 victims in his hometown of Sierra County, New Mexico. Among the many evil deeds performed by Ray, he would play an audio tape of himself vividly describing what he was going to do to his victims. While a transcript of this audio is available online, as well as a handful of recreations, the full authentic tape was seized by authorities. Truly disturbing pieces of lost media do exist, and are not actively being sought out by a majority of the community. Regardless, in October of this year, a request was sent to the New Mexico Department for Public Safety, inquiring for a digitized copy of the tape. 2 weeks later, an MP3 of the audio was delivered and uploaded online. David Parker Ray was sentenced to 224 years in prison following the escape of one of his victims. He died in 2002 due to a heart attack, before ever serving for his crimes. The Robotnik Stooges, Curly of the Apes. Of all the iconic Hanna-Barbera cartoons to exist, the Robotnik Stooges don't come to mind. The series lasted for less than a year, and starred the classic slapstick comedy trio, the Three Stooges, now posing as robotic superheroes. They fight crime despite their often malfunctions and clumsiness, and are given tasks by their annoyed boss, Agent 000. The show aired on CBS from 1977 to early 1978, and was given new life when it was shown on Boomerang, Cartoon Network's retro programming block. While most of the series is viewable online, one episode in particular, Curly of the Apes, has been lost for quite some time. According to the Lost Media Wiki, the plot of this missing episode involved the Robotnik Stooges going after a poacher named Trigger Mortis, who steals whole entire elephants. One of the Stooges, Curly, encounters an ape, and then gets set up with the ape's daughter. He is saved by Larry and Moe, the other 2 Stooges, before they successfully defeat Trigger Mortis. The series was never sold through home media release, making Curly of the Ape extremely rare. Only its first 2 minutes were viewable, until 2022, when the entire episode was uploaded to the Internet Archive by user Meho Kalamadhanam.
Built from the world's finest electronic parts, designed to be the world's most perfect electronic robots, the Robotic Stooges!
Betty Boop, Honest Love and True, and At the Concert. Betty Boop is a character that needs no introduction. The animated Flapper Girl has been an icon for generations, but first appeared in a series of cartoon shorts in the 1930s. Most of these have been accounted for, except for 2, Honest Love and True and Buzzy Boop at the Concert. Given their age and extensive time interval since their premiere, the likelihood of them ever being found was extremely low. Very little was known about these missing shorts. Honest Love and True was said to be about Betty working in a saloon in Klondike, Yukon. Buzzy Boop at the Concert features Betty's younger tomboy cousin, Buzzy Boop, performing on stage. In 2017, UCLA unveiled that they had secured a copy of Honest Love and True and screened it at their Festival of Preservation that year. Buzzy Boop at the Concert was later found in 2019 in Goss Filmafond, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that too, the Russian Film Archive. But it wasn't until 2022 when both shorts became viewable online, with the latter being uploaded by UCLA's Archive YouTube channel. Castlevania Symphony of the Night Gamecom. While Castlevania Symphony of the Night definitely saw an official release in 1997 on both the PlayStation and Sega Saturn, this recently found piece of media concerns a 1999 port made for the obscure Tiger Electronics handheld called the Gamecom. While the Gamecom saw a very brief and failed distribution between 1997 and 2000, the Symphony of the Night port never saw release. Despite the title's cancellation, prototypes did exist, speculated to have been developed by Tiger Electronics themselves. A prototype came into the possession of hiddenpalace.org at some point, thanks to an anonymous donor, though the issue of dumping the contents on the Gamecom prototype soon arose. Due to the obscurity of the console, hiddenpalace.org was unable to share the contents for some time. With the help of Discman.com, they were eventually able to provide footage of the game as well as the full ROM on Halloween. It was also found that the port was somewhat far in development and resembles the content of the PlayStation release. Reverend Mosley's Trapped in the Closet audio. There are no words to describe R. Kelly's 2005 hit, Trapped in the Closet. It's a 33-part song that stars Kelly himself, playing a man named Sylvester, who wakes up in bed with a woman after a one-night stand. As he leaves, the woman's husband suddenly comes home, forcing Sylvester to hide in the closet. After that, a ton of stuff happens. Too much to go through in this video. One part, however, is of particular interest. In the song's 29th chapter, Reverend Mosley is trying to sell his new book. During his commercial, a phone number is displayed on screen, which could actually be called. Callers would receive a pre-recorded message from Mosley, who explained that his book had sold out. Of course, in the years to come, the number would discontinue, thus causing Reverend Mosley's message to become lost media. That is, until November of this year, when YouTube user MyDigitalVault uploaded a recording of the voicemail to his channel. Apparently, he recorded the message way back when the number was still active.
Love and happiness. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. You have reached the ministry of Reverend Mosley. Every copy to Trapped in the Closet book has been sold out. Hallelujah. And it's an excellent read. I'm telling you, it's gonna touch you, yeah.
The Degrassi Kids Rap on Rights. In late 1989, the cast of the popular Canadian TV series Degrassi High had filmed a 10-minute video titled The Degrassi Kids Rap on Rights. The video was made to release in time with the ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Right of the Child, that ensures equal rights to all children, regardless of race, gender, or disability. It featured characters rapping about children's rights, prominently the 3 Ps, those being provision, protection, and participation. While filmed in 1989, the video never saw release until the year 1991. This is likely due to 1989 being the year the convention became open for signatures prior to the ratification itself, which was not until 1991. While the existence of the Degrassi Kids Rap on Rights was confirmed through articles, written works, and a brief clip in the documentary The Degrassi Story, the video itself only saw a limited distribution to Canadian schools and remained unavailable to view online. Physical copies were unable to be located, aside from a single copy available through the Queen's University Documents Library within Ontario. The search saw increasing developments over the course of this year, the first of which being the discovery of 2 still images from the video. It was finally on November 4th that Bombs, a member of the Degrassi Preservation Discord server, received handheld recorded footage of the entire special, and consequently uploaded the footage to YouTube.
That's me, I play PLT, I'm the #1 dude on Degrassi. Yes, we're all on lunch, and I've got a hunch that you want to hear from the rest of this bunch.
It was totally fine in 59 when a bunch of countries agreed to sign.
Fox Kids Barcasting Events. For one single day, on November 2nd, 1996, a full block of Fox Kids programming was taken over and hosted by Bart Simpson. This broadcast event was dubbed Bartcasting, and served the main purpose of promoting The Simpsons, which airs on the same channel. The Bartcasting block specifically promoted Season 8 of the long-running series, which was set to premiere soon. The block itself featured the same Fox Kids programming, but included various bumpers and clips from The Simpsons that aired during commercial breaks. These bumpers were unique to Bartcasting, and never aired again following that day. On May 21st, YouTube user Joseph A. Sabora uploaded a Fox Kids commercial compilation taken from a November 2nd, 1996 broadcast from Chicago, Illinois. This upload included one of the lost bumpers from Bartcasting. Later on November 6th, YouTube user CrudVid uploaded a complete 7-minute compilation of all bumpers from the television block, making all Bartcasting bumpers completely recovered.
Oh boy, this is great! I'm in charge of the Fox Kids Network! Using my homemade state-of-the-art system, I have redirected the Fox satellite to me so I can show clips of The Simpsons, including a special sneak peek at the season premiere. But I'm not going to let my newfound power and influence go to my head. Today, the Fox Kids Network, tomorrow the world!
Hey, what are you doing? Bad dog!
Phew, that was close. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Watch All New Life with Louie next as Fox Kids Bartcasting continues on Fox Kids.
Daft Punk Winter Olympics commercial. During the 2002 Winter Olympics, a commercial aired featuring the song Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger by electronic music duo Daft Punk. The commercial became of interest in the lost media and Daft Punk community due to its mysteriousness. On their subreddit, a user posted an image of a VHS containing television spots from Daft Punk, including the Winter Olympics one. According to OP, he found it in his local Goodwill and had plans to acquire the equipment to rip the lost commercial. 1 month later, a different user uploaded the full commercial in the Daft Punk subreddit. 1989 Busch Clash. The Busch Clash is an annual NASCAR event that is typically held before the season opener, the Daytona 500. Starting in 1979, the event is still being held to this day, but their 1989 edition was the only one missing. It occurred on February 12th of that year, and was ultimately won by Ken Schrader in a Chevrolet vehicle. Apparently the race was posted in full twice to YouTube, but both uploads were taken down before anyone could save it. A YouTube channel named NBR made a video titled 10 Pieces of NASCAR Lost Media, in which he talked about this missing event. Shortly after his video, a different channel named NASCAR Man History commented that he had a tape of the 1989 Busch Clash. Sure enough, he posted the full race online, rendering it found.
Today on CBS, the racetrack equivalent of the 100-yard dash. The fastest of the fast in the Busch Clash. A 20-lap, 50-mile, all-out sprint in the blink of an eye.
Simcopter 64. Maxis and Electronic Arts released a game titled Simcopter for the PC in 1996. The game remained a PC exclusive, though plans were made to bring the game to the Nintendo 64 at some point between 1997 and 1999, before a subsequent cancellation. This game was meant to be titled Simcopter 64. Speculated to have begun development following the 1996 PC release, Simcopter 64 was confirmed to have been playable at E3 1997 through available footage of the event. It would have been the same as the PC version, though it would have included the option to import your city from SimCity 64, a title only released in Japan to the 64DD add-on. Simcopter 64 was later shown in Japan at Space World and Tokyo Game Show to poor reception. The game was shifted to be a Japan-only release, then cancelled entirely by 1999. In May of 2022, A707 North Bayer, a user on the N64 subreddit, made a post announcing they came into possession of a playable build of Simcopter 64. According to the user, it was obtained from a lot purchased from Craigslist, claiming the seller had, quote, worked in the game industry. A gameplay video was uploaded, showing this build dated to December of 1997, making it a build created after the E3 appearance. Following an article on Simcopter 64 by the Video Game History Foundation, the full build was dumped to their website. This specific pre-alpha build dates back to June 16th of 1997. This was the version shown at E3 that same year. The Doors, Paris Blues. There is an abundance of lost music out there, especially considering the many scrap songs of the more prominent and famous artists. The Doors are no exception to this, especially when considering the recently found track, Paris Blues. The way this one was found is interesting to say the least. The Doors, formed in Los Angeles and active between 1965 and 1973, supposedly recorded Paris Blues at some points between 1968 and 1971, for inclusion in LA Woman. It's widely believed that Paris Blues was created on the same day as the songs Car Hissed by My Window and Crawling King Snake, a day dubbed by Jim Morrison as the Blues Day. Unfortunately, the band later agreed that Paris Blues was simply not good enough to be included in LA Woman. The track was confirmed to have been recorded, though later statements by guitarist Robbie Krieger claimed that both the master tape and cassette copies simply went missing. There was talk about another tape being in the possession of keyboardist Ray Manzarek. However, this specific tape was later confirmed to have been accidentally destroyed when Manzarek's infant son had tampered with it. All hope in a Paris Blues release was virtually lost, until Rhino Records announced the release of the track on September 13th. The recovery of the track was through the use of a studio outtake and creative editing, as Rhino themselves word it. Paris Blues was released as a standalone track on the Doors YouTube channel, with a physical compilation release on November 25th. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles deleted scenes. John Hughes, famous for 80s coming-of-age films such as The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles, directed this 1987 film starring Steve Martin and the late John Candy. The film was released to positive reception and is well known to this day as a holiday classic. The final runtime of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was 105 minutes, though it was originally intended to be far longer, as at least 75 minutes of footage was inevitably cut from the film. Some sources claim the runtime of the film reached over 4 hours at one point. Despite this, only one deleted scene had been featured in previous releases of the film, and the majority remain lost. In 2009, John Hughes passed away at age 59. It was originally thought that these discarded scenes of the original cut were long gone, as it was believed that they were discarded years ago during the film's production. It was not until a VHS tape discovery within the estate of Hughes that the missing scenes from the original cut were restored in full. Following this discovery, on October 1st, Paramount Pictures announced a new Blu-ray release of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, one that included all removed and untrimmed scenes. This Blu-ray, with all missing scenes included, saw an official release on November 22nd. B-Roads: The Great Escape. Officially titled The Great Escape, this documentary followed English rock band Blur during a series of 1995 shows and was named after their 4th studio album. The film was meant to take a fly-on-the-wall perspective of the band, as they attempted to revisit their roots prior to international fame by performing in small venues throughout Britain. The documentary would make use of candid footage over the course of this tour, including a scene of one of the band members riding a bicycle in the countryside while dressed as Sherlock Holmes. B Roads, as it was known by the fanbase for years, was meant to serve as a follow-up to the 1993 Blur documentary Star-Shaped. B Roads ultimately went unreleased for being considered too odd, following the showing of a rough cut of the film. Most online discussion regarding this documentary comes from the subreddit r/blur, with many regarding it with an almost mythical status and as a holy grail amongst the fanbase. That is, until it unceremoniously surfaced through an anonymous leak. While multiple people had claimed to own a copy, B Roads was officially shared via a Reddit post on November 23rd. The official title was found to be The Great Escape, while B Roads was incorrectly used in the 1995 issue of the Blur Fan Club magazine. This leaked film was revealed to be a rough cut lacking any credits. Oysterhead Maze. As the title suggests, this 2001 3D Flash game was made in reference to the rock band Oysterhead. The game itself was developed in Shockwave 3D, with the use of Shockwave's Havok Extra Physics engine, and was created by a man named Roger Jones. He ran the website Throbbing Media, or throbbing.com, where the game was originally hosted. While unconfirmed, there is speculation that Oysterhead Maze was also playable on oysterhead.com. At the very least, the game had a page on the band's website, crediting the in-game art to Chris Knopf. The game was playable until sometime in 2005. In 2019, Lost Media Wiki forum user The Cracked Soberhead recalled playing the game years ago on throbbing.com, with others also remembering the game. From here, efforts to locate it online began, and links to web pages that once hosted the game were discovered. One notable breakthrough was when a 2003 thread from DSLreports.com was found, containing both the original throbbing.com link and a screenshot of the game itself. Among the largest finds came about when longtime Lost Media Wiki user Tommy Shadow was able to identify Jones as the game's creator within a partially archived Shockwave file. From here, The Crack's Overhead was able to locate and contact Jones directly by November of 2022. It was at this point that a working copy of Oysterhead Maze was received from Jones directly. On December 5th, the full game was uploaded to Blue Maximus Flashpoint and archive.org, making it fully playable. Rocket Beach. Rocket Power is a popular Nickelodeon cartoon centered around a group of 4 kids, Otto, Reggie, Twister, and Sam, and their passion for extreme sports. It ran from 1999 to 2004, though a pilot exists that was made a year prior in 1998. This pilot was only 4.5 minutes long, and it never aired anywhere. Titled Rocket Beach, the pilot has clear differences in art style, as well as character appearance. It is suggested that Twister was intended to be the main character, and the setting is mentioned as Ocean Park, California, rather than Ocean Shores. Rocket Beach was the topic of online speculation among fans for years. Snippets of footage were located on a late 90s version of Nick.com, as well as a 20th anniversary montage that aired on TV in 1999. Images were also uncovered, showing the main cast and a background. It was eventually discovered that the pilot itself existed for viewing at the Paley Center for Media. Unfortunately, the pilot could only be viewed by visiting the center physically. On December 7th of this year, a YouTube user named Sander Perez uploaded bootleg footage of the pilot taken from the Paley Center. According to Perez, he was granted permission to record the pilot by staff. Regardless, this pilot is now officially marked as found media. Scramble Training. Michael Jackson and Sega are more intertwined than many may realize. Most are already familiar with the King of Pop's uncredited contribution to the soundtrack of Sonic 3. There's also the more obscure Moonwalker, as well as his later appearance in Space Channel 5 for the Dreamcast. Easily the most obscure is Jackson's appearance in Scramble Training, a simulation game made for the AS1 Motion Simulator. Scramble Training was developed in 1992, following the release of Moonwalker, and eventually saw an extremely limited release. Jackson was featured in full-motion video segments, playing the role of a flight instructor as the players flew through space. Scramble Training was more akin to a theme park ride experience. The game saw a debut at the 31st Amusement Machine Show, running on the brand new AS1 machine. The AS1 project was generally considered to be a failure within Sega. The game itself only saw release at a handful of locations that aren't fully documented. The AS1 machines continued to be accessible until as late as 2003. It can be safely assumed that Scramble Training itself became unavailable following controversy with Jackson himself. While low-quality camera footage of the visuals existed, a full recovery of the direct, uncompressed footage had yet to occur. That is, until very recently, on December 9th, when a man named Ben Bisley purchased the game tape without knowing its contents. The footage was uncovered and digitized by Oxford Duplication Center, as well as writer Nick Greenfield, and was found to include the entire game footage in both English and Japanese. Also included were test cards and the game's credits. Scramble Training's FMV footage was documented in full via GamingAlexandria.com on archive.org.
AS1, I roger that. You have the con. You take control, it's all yours. Remember, our fate is in your hands. A shuttle will now commence re-entry sequence.
Each shield is closed, displaying horizontal.
Crazyland. This would-be NES game was adapted and localized from the Famicom title Doki Doki Yoenshi Crazyland Daisakusen. Crazyland would have been drastically changed in order to better suit a Western art style. This version was set to release in 1991 by US company NTVIC, though was delayed to 1992 and ultimately scrapped. It was initially developed in Japan by Kid and VAP in 1991. Print ads and magazine mentions exist from the era, showcasing Crazyland's plot and shift in art style. While the original Japanese game features box art with a more anime-inspired main character, the unreleased localization is clearly made to look slightly less cute. Various assets within the levels themselves were also changed entirely. Prototype ROMs were confirmed to exist when YouTube user Steven78 uploaded a compilation video of his collection of early builds, but never provided the game itself. Last year in 2021, Edward Semrod had invited Frank Cifaldi of the Video Game History Foundation to his home. Semrod was formerly editor-in-chief of Electronic Gaming Monthly and had amassed a large game collection, among which was the Crazyland prototype. Cifaldi was granted permission to dump various ROMs from the collection, and the full game was made available on hiddenpalace.org on December 9th. Christmas Time with Mr. Rogers. And finally, we conclude this year's list with a beloved children's classic. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is a children's television show that aired for 33 years from 1968 to 2001. With over 900 episodes, it's not surprising that some have fallen through the cracks and become lost media. Luckily, one of these has been recently found. Christmas Time with Mr. Rogers was a holiday special that aired on PBS on December 20th of 1977. This is noteworthy, as the show itself was on a brief hiatus from 1976 and 1979. The special took note of exploring the celebration of Hanukkah in addition to Christmas, making the program inclusive to observers of both. Christmas Time with Mr. Rogers even addressed viewers who celebrated neither holiday. The special was supposedly broadcasted every year until 1982, making a VHS recording possible. After 1982, however, it was rarely shown, and no home video release ever occurred. The Neighborhood Archive, a Mr. Rogers fan site, is known to have a copy of this special. Despite this, the site did reveal a full plot summary and uploaded various screenshots. On September 6th of this year, Facebook user Adam Nedeff reached out to the Fred Rogers production directly in a private message, inquiring about this lost special. He received a positive response the next day, with Fred Rogers Productions saying they would look into the Lost special and work with those in charge of the official webpage. Suddenly, on December 10th, Christmas Time with Mr. Rogers was uploaded to MrRogers.org in full.
Well, our time's almost over for now. But that's the way it is with almost everything. There's a beginning, and there's an end. And what's important are the memories of all that's in between. I, for one, wish you good memories of this holiday. And I hope you'll be able to look for all the different ways people have of showing that they love you.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I know for sure that there are stuff that I missed or I just couldn't include because as I was working on this video, more stuff kept getting found, and there's probably some stuff after this video goes up that will be found because this year was just crazy. But yeah, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Hope you guys have a good one. Huge thanks to YoshiKiller2S and Sakura Stardust for helping me make this video, this huge video. And yeah, take care, guys.